Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron.
Before we get started today, I want to ask everybody to go to the Facebook page, give us a like, and go to the YouTube page. We had somebody who had trouble finding the YouTube page. I was able to go to youtube.com and just search Between the Lanes, and it came right up. If you can't find it that way, check out Slot Racer, and it should come up, right?
Yep, that's the channel. Slot Racer is the channel.
Channel.
Everything.
All right. So if you haven't done so, give it a like, give it a look, give it a share. And today we have race results, race reports, FNRS race coverage, and some tech topics, including some tire durometer stuff. So, Ron, you want to get us started?
Sure. We will do race results. The AWRA was at Concord, and they raced sportsman cars, and they raced stock cars. And the top three in both classes went as follows. Walker McNulty first, Charles Eldridge second, and Bob Palmer third. And then they had the B&E Crosstown Challenge up at Mid-America, Roger Schmidt's place. Hard body or hobby stock was won by Neil Eisler, Jim Kreider second, Ken Eisler third. The dirt late model class, Neil Eisler won, Bernard Powell second, Ken Eisler third. Had a pretty decent turnout.
Right.
And also on the same day, they had the ISRA Great Lakes series earlier in the day. And then the JRL class, Chuck Gambo was the winner, followed by John Miller and Dale Leip. Open 12 was won by Dale Leip, Kevin Van Pelt second, and Rob Voska third. And then B Production, Kevin Van Pelt was the winner, Chuck Gambo second, Scott Morgan third. And they did not have a Eurosport 24th race. Great Lakes Retro and the Midwest Slot Car Series had their combo race at Columbia City Raceway in Columbia City, Indiana. And Can-Am was won by Joe Ligori, Steve Pepler second, Lonnie Batts was third. LMP was won by Joe Ligori, Lonnie Batts second, Tim Batts third. And then GTP, it was Joe Ligori winning again for the clean sweep, with Steve Pepler second and Aaron Hall, the track owner, in third. And all that racing was done on the old Florida Orange track, as they call it, which is a road course. And no F1 race due to lack of entries. Then we're going to go to California, and they had the NorCal Slot Car Racing Association was at Fast Track Hobbies in Rockland, California. And, again, they run all their classes as one class with different driver designations within the class.
But just like amateur, advanced, and pro.
Yeah, big round robin. So the advanced winner of NASCAR was Jeffrey Cohn, who's 12 years old. Expert was won by John Wilbur. Pro was won by Justin Colvin. So the top three overall was Justin, followed by Chris Dre and Herman James. NAS Truck Advanced was won by Tyler Colvin, which is Justin's younger brother, who's also 12. Expert was won by George Hopper, and Pro was won by Justin. So the top three was Justin, Tyler was second, and Chris Dre was third. In the LMP, Advanced was won by Tyler Colvin. Expert was won by George Hopper, and Pro was won by Jason Hooper. So the top three overall was Jason, Justin Colvin second, Chris Wright third. And then GT12, the Advanced was Jeffrey Cohn winning. Expert was Casey Shackelford, and the Pro was Jason Hooper. So the top three was Jason, Casey, and then Chris Wright.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if Chris Wright, for example, I don't know if he's an expert or an advanced or a pro.
Class he's in, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can see that even in that format, the pro guys don't always wind up being in the top three. So, that's results I have, and of course you were at the FNRS race, so we're going to let you give us that on the scene detailed report.
Yep, I headed down to Fast Eddie Slot Car and Raceway in Pinellas Park, Florida, for the fifth and final FNRS race of the year. I had not been to his raceway before. when I walked in the door, I was won't say I was surprised, but I was it was very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I wasn't surprised, but it was
Impressed? Were
yeah,
you impressed?
There you go. Very impressed. He had a very nice space, lots of pit spaces, all kinds of parts, 2 really nice tracks, clean bathrooms, air conditioning. I mean, it's all there. You know, all the good stuff was there. So,
Okay.
Guys started getting there about Thursday, and then some more came in on Friday, and then of course we started the racing on Saturday. Saturday, the racing started with LMP. Local Mike Mook won concourse. Dennis Tamal, another Florida native, was TQ. And Brian Ambrose won that race with Shane Parent second and Dennis Tamal third. And then we had stock cars where Mike Mook once again won concourse. TQ was Bobby Boschman. And then I was able to win the race with Charlie McCullough second, Dennis DeMol third. And then we rounded off the day with GTP where Terry Tawney, he won TQ, Teddy Hoots won concourse, and the overall top 3 was Jason Burnside, Terry Tawney, and Dennis DeMol. And it was a very close day of racing all the way throughout the field. Those guys down there in Florida, they definitely got that track down. I mean, it was a real tough place to go in and try to do good at. They race on that track a lot and they're good on it. So it was a good challenge.
Good, because you won stock car by what, 2 laps?
Yeah, 2, right? Because I think out of the nine podium spots, only 2 of them went to out of town racers for the 9 spots. So they did good defending their home turf.
Okay, so you and Shane were the only 2 outsiders.
They were able to podium, yeah.
Oh, good.
So yeah, it was a good weekend. It was their first time running those rules. Most of those guys, I don't think anybody down in Florida had been to an FNRS race. So it was their first time, and of course they're used to running FSCS, which is maybe a little bit different. So we appreciate them trying out our style of racing. Everyone there loved it. They really liked it. They were glad they came, and it was just a really fun day. I mean, I think a lot of people were surprised just how easy everything was. With just everything went smooth. Tech was so easy, and the rules were simple. They really liked it, so that's good.
Cool.
We'll probably be going back there next year, I'd imagine. And hopefully we can get some of them to come up to some other races.
Right. Well, time will tell. So.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, that's all I got for race results.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess probably the big one coming up this week is probably the Fall Brawl, which starts tomorrow, Thursday. I guess they probably run stock car on Thursday.
I haven't seen the schedule, but I'm usually in the past. I think it's been stock cars and retro angle winders, maybe on Thursday, and then Fridays coupes and Saturdays either F1 or Can-Am, and Sundays either Can-Am or F1. So
right, yeah.
I don't know.
Either way, that should be a big race. Should be lots of people.
And I don't know if they're racing Can-Am Plus or not either. So I think they do that in last year, but I'm not sure about this year. So, but we'll have a full detailed report next week. The results.
Okay. So tires. We always talk about tires, right?
Yeah, always talk about. So yeah, okay. So what was the tire down in Florida? Let's talk the hill climb.
Okay.
That was LMP and GTP. So what did you guys?
Well, I think for the most part in LMP, now I can't speak for everybody, but I think most people ran a somewhat similar to maybe a Kelly Retro type tire.
Okay.
Harder but natural rubber tire.
Right. Yeah.
by the time GTP came, I think some of the guys were going on a track had rubbered up, and it was kind of going around to maybe like Wonder Rubber time then, you know?
Okay.
So, like, for instance, Bobby, not picking on Bobby, just using this as his experience, you know, he was kind of frustrated with his car, and he was, I'm not running GTP. I'm done, you know? And I'm like, no, man, come on. You got to race, you know? You came all this way. You got to run it. And he says, well, here, you run it. Tell me what you think. And I said, well, first tell me what you think of it. And he says, well, the car's just too tight. It's just hopping and chattering, and it's too tight. I'm like, okay. I felt his tires, and they were really hard, so I had a hard time believing this car was too tight, you know. So I ran some laps on it, and you could see that the car was way too loose. But sometimes when the car gets loose, right?
Right.
The rear tires are spinning and spinning, and when the car's just sliding, and then when the car gets sideways, the tires will just hook after they've been spinning, and then they'll just hook all of a sudden, and it'll kind of make the car like flip-flop or chatter. And a lot of people think that they hear that, they see that flopping out or that chatter, and they think that, oh, that's too soft, you know, but really that's too hard, you know. I mean, you just have to, it takes experience, I guess, to be able to recognize that it's that the looseness is causing the chattering, not the tightness of the car, you know. So I'm like, man, no. I said, this thing's way loose. I'm like, you got to put some softer tires. And he's like, oh, there's no way. It'll never work, you know. And I'm like, just try it. So he goes and puts some, he stayed with Wonder Rubber, but put something a couple points softer, which we'll get to the Durometer here in a minute. So he put something a couple points softer on it, and he goes out and runs it, and it's like,
different car.
All of a sudden he can run it, you know. But it's again, like we always talk about, everyone wants to run. Most of the time, people try to run too hard a tire.
Right.
Now, with that being said, Jason Birdseye won the race on some really hard Wonder Rubber, but I mean, obviously it worked for him or fit his driving style or his motor or his chassis setup or whatnot, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so when we got there, the hill climb had probably a little bit more glue on it than I'm usual, but it wasn't bad. And, I mean, I think I started out on like a small hub retro. And then as the track rubbered in, I just kind of worked up like a full hub over time.
Bigger diameter hub.
Right, which, you know, creates a harder tire. Yeah, and then, I mean, from the time LMP was over to all the practicing I had on it to GTP, I mean, it got real rubbered in, and it was definitely a hard tire track at that point, I think, for most people.
Right.
The oval, I mean, I think most people would probably want to run a rubber, at least on the outside tire on the oval, probably the whole time. A couple of people tried racing with natural tires, and they did okay, but I would have to imagine they probably would have done better with a harder tire on the outside.
So did you run a Wonder on the outside of your car then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And really, that track is it didn't have a lot of glue on it, didn't have a lot of rubber on it, but you really probably could have run two Wonder and not been too loose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've actually had times on oval cars, and it makes no sense. I mean, I've actually had it where a soft outside tire and a harder inside tire was better than hard outside, soft inside. But generally, soft inside, hard outside is the way to go.
Yeah.
But there's been times where I've actually run soft on both sides, or maybe, like I said, hard on the inside, soft on the outside, which makes no sense, but it worked. It worked on a given day. So.
Yeah, I've had that too. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so basically, it's just another thing. I mean, there's so many people, you know. I mean, I see so many people struggle with tires everywhere I go. You know, no matter what they're racing. You know,
right.
A lot of people just have a really tough time picking picking the tire,
Well, a lot of people, everybody goes on about motors. I mean, in the last couple of days, it's all we've read about is motors. But, I was sitting there the other day, and I'm yesterday I'm reading all this motor stuff, and I'm thinking, we spend more money on tires, and tires is I mean, like,
Right.
I've been to races, and guys are like, well, I'm slow. And it's like, watch their car, and you tell them, well, go to a harder tire or softer tire, and they pick up 0.2. It's like, it has nothing to do with motor. Your car's not fast because you're either too bogged or you're too hard. So, I mean, tires are just as important or a bigger part of it than most people realize. And, again, same thing, if you've been at the track for a day and I walk in and say, what's working, Ralph, for tires, and you tell me and I go and put that tire on my car, that may not work for me. Like going back to the Jason Birdside thing, he ran some super hard Wonder Rubber and it worked for him. Why did it work for him? Like, again, was it his car? Was it his motor? Was it his driving?
And see, he was on Wonder Rubber like out of the box as soon as he got there. And he was having a tough time. Like, he was struggling, and he's like, well, my motor looks good, but it's not fast. And I'm like, yeah, but you're coming out of the dead man and you're sideways for like 4 feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, you're not gonna go nowhere. No matter if you're the first one, the dead man or not.
Right.
You're not gonna go anywhere else around the track. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's the same thing. Like, a guy says, well, your motor's faster because you're pulling me off the turn like, 3-4 car lengths. No, my car's just hooked up more than yours is. So I've got forward bite where I'm going off the corner and going straight. They're going sideways. And anytime you're sideways or spinning your tires, you're losing time. There's no two ways around it. I mean,
yeah,
you got to have traction off the corner, through the corner. And if you're slipping and sliding, you're losing time.
And I'll go back a step. Before you can even determine if you're getting traction off the corner, your nose, your ride height has to be right in the front.
Right.
Before you can even really, truly determine if your car's loose or tipping out. Just tipping out, or if it's tires causing it,
Right. But, I always have been able to tell right off the bat whether my front end's set up right. What I'm saying? Like, when I go to the track, I'll have my car set up. I mean, usually I go to tracks with my cars with 5,000 or 10,000 spacer in the front, run them a couple laps, then start raising, because usually you can't go much lower. So then I'll start raising. But I still have whatever tire I start with. I know right then either this tire is too hard or it's too soft right off the bat. And then you start playing the front end. But I don't think I've ever – well, recently, in the last year or two, I can't say that I ever changed my rear tires to something different because I got my spacing in the front of the car right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it depends on what kind of car it is. Let's say it's a retro car, my car's tipping in the front. Well, usually the front end's too high. And once I get that right, it's not because it's tipping because the tires are too bitey in the rear. You know what I'm saying?
See, I like my cars to drag more than most people too. Well,
down on the track.
Yeah, like when we went to Tri-State, you're like, oh no, you got to have 30,000.
Yep.
30,000 spacers, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, I'm gonna run like 10.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I ended up on real low, and then you ended up with 30. I ended up with 10, but we were the same speed. I mean, it's weird how that works, sort of, but I don't know. I just like mine drag more than most people, I guess.
Okay.
Some people see black and they get scared. They see like a little bit and they're like,
like I said on one of the earlier shows, I said somewhere, if you got rubber on the bottom of your car, you're just knocking the rubber off the track. But if you got paint on the bottom of your car, then you are definitely dragging the track.
Right. Yeah.
And at Tri-State, I don't know if the lane striping was abnormally thick or something, but I would see paint on the bottom of my car from the lane striping. So it's like, wow, I'm low. So I'd raise it up and get rid of the paint, but still have rubber on there. So car, my cars were good there. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like we always say, I mean, there's more than one way to go about things.
Right. And
So,
that was GTP cars with lots of downforce versus, like an LMP car has less downforce, so you can run it lower because you're not going to have to worry about the air.
well, right, and those cars are more sensitive to being too high too.
Right.
Yep. So, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, basically, when you have too many spaces under your guide flag, the front of your chassis, here's the racetrack, here's your car, right? If you're up a little bit too high, what happens is when you go in the corner, the car rocks to one side, so it's tilting.
Or tipping.
So, yeah, it's tipping. So two things can happen. One, it can just tip so much that it's just going to come out of the slot, or B, when you go through the corner and it's tipping. Say you're going through a right-hand corner and the car tips to the left, your inside tire of that corner is no longer on the ground.
That's right.
So you're driving through the corner on one tire, and, we don't have limited slips. Both tires are spinning the whole time, So you're driving through with one tire, and then they hit the ground, and then they spin, and then you get chatter or it gets loose or whatnot. So, I mean, you're always going to be faster with both tires on the ground driving through the corner.
Correct.
And having the nose or the ears on the track is what allows you to not tip and drive through the corner.
Right.
So.
Yep. And that's on flexi cars. But
Yeah.
you can do the same thing with retro cars because you're running on your front tires.
Right. Yeah.
So years ago, it was fun when you'd run flexi cars with half-inch fronts. You had to have a 16th front clearance.
Yeah, that lasted one heat, and everybody bent the piano wire down.
Well, if they had it up there, but
yeah, or they bent it up, or they bent it down, or something.
Well, yeah, but back in the ancient days of flexi car racing, when we ran the flexi car, there was nothing to bend down up there, so.
Right.
Everybody had the same problem, so you just basically had to drive the cars versus, lowering the front ends of them. So, yep, cars with wings. That's why the champion car was so dominant for such a long time, was because it had the front wings out there.
Yeah.
And you could slam it down the track. So.
Yeah. See, we used to have to run half-inch fronts, like you said, but they were on 16th-inch piano wire.
Right.
So you set the car up to run on the nose, and before you put in tech, you just kind of bend the front wheels a little bit down to hold it up to get through tech, and then most of the time the piano wire, it would just kind of bend back up on its own anyway. If not, you maybe just pressed on it with your thumb a little bit or something,
And then we would actually even run 5/8 fronts just to roll on the fronts to get rid of the tipping too.
Right.
And that was all great until you bent your front axle, and then.
Sorry.
That's okay. And that was okay until you bent a front axle. If you bend it up, and then you got to go over and bend them in between heats, and so yeah, right. Different times, different things. So I guess this whole subject is about. Well, okay, so back to the tire thing, as far as you brought up the word durometer. Some people know, a lot of people know what durometers are. A lot of people probably, what are they talking about? But a durometer is like a little gauge or a little tool instrument. Ralph, you got yours. Ralph's a little different than mine. Yeah. So, and I actually have two different durometers. They're both the same thing, but both they read two different things. And that was the point that I'm going to show with this. So use the durometer to check the softness of your tires. And we all know that untreated natural tires are the softest usually. And then if you want to go a little harder, you go to a treated natural tire. And if you want to go harder than that, you go Wonder Rubber. But then you've got things like Wonder Rubber that's in there, it's in the mix, and you got Retro Rubber that's in the mix. But they will all have a different hardness or softness, however you want to look at it, say it. So,
right.
I could have a untreated natural that reads 10 on my durometer, and I could have a Kelly Retro that read 10 on my durometer. But those tires are going to act a little different too. So
Right.
some days it's not just about the hardness; it's also about the rubber or tire, because like the Kelly Retro, it's not really a natural rubber like a tuna or what's the other names for natural rubber? Tuna, fish.
Fish, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a different type of rubber. Then there's the Thunder rubber, which is a little sometimes more on the firmer side, and they're soft. Thunder, I don't know if they actually have a hard Thunder. I think they just call it Thunder rubber, don't they?
I don't know a lot about Thunder rubber.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either. So, basically the big terms is treated, untreated.
That's your big that's your big three is treated,
untreated,
treated, and wonder.
And again, before we get into the whole the number thing, if you had an Alpha Wonder rubber and you had a JK Wonder rubber, they might be the same hardness, but they might be two different tires the way they feel and act on the track. And that could be just a difference in batch of rubber between the two manufacturers. One guy has had his for 6 months, that batch, and the other guy just got a new batch in. Or could be the problem, getting them from the distributor. Maybe one brand sells more faster than the other. So, again, what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to learn how to check your tires. And I'm not saying you have to have a durometer per se. It'll definitely up your game. But, if you know the basics in tires, if you go from untreated to treated, it's going to be
when I was kind of just starting to become serious about, trying to race, traveling and racing. The durometer, like the biggest thing that I struggled with was the tire deal. It's one of the easiest things there is to struggle with. And so I went and bought a durometer, and I was durometer and everything. And I durometer 100 times, trying to learn stuff and figure it out. But after a couple of years, you get to a point where, you don't really, you just kind of know what's going to be what, or you learn by the feel or whatnot. And you kind of it's an odd time that I even pull out my durometer now throughout the weekend. You know what I mean?
Right. But
it helped a lot in the learning process, and I still keep it with me just in case, because there are times when I will use it.
Because there's times like I'll have two sets of, let's just say I have two sets of untreated tires, but one set's got more traction than the other set. So I'll get the durometer out to see if there's a difference in hardness.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, this one doesn't hook up because it's 2 points harder. Or, the most confusing thing is like when they're the same hardness, one pair hooks up and the other pair don't. It's like, well, put that other pair away for another day, because I can't explain why two tires of the same hardness, same type rubber, but it's like anything else. You get a good apple in the dozen apples you buy at the store, and the rest don't, taste the same, but they all come off the same tree.
Yeah, see, like, especially got changed up a little bit when all this bad rubber came around.
Yeah.
The bad rubber feels real soft, but then you put it on the track and it's just loose. Like, no matter how hard or how soft it feels in your hands or how soft it reads on the durometer, it's just loose because, the cells and the pores are so big, there's just no grip,
Yep.
Which is funny, sort of. I don't know if funny is the right word, but now people are claiming they have premium rubber or this or that, but it's nothing premium. It's just what it should have been all along,
Well, it's what it used to be.
Right.
A long time ago, like 7-8 years ago.
There's nothing premium. It's just it's just proper, correct rubber like we used to have years ago.
Right. It's the stuff that you haven't been able to get for a long time. And that's And that's just due to the company that makes the rubber has changed something,
Right.
either in their formulation or their foaming of the rubber or something. But
Right.
I mean, even with that said, when that rubber changed over 7 or 8 years ago, the new different stuff, for me in most cases, worked just as good as the other stuff.
Yeah, see, I never had good luck with it. It always seemed like loose, always.
Right.
Loose.
But there are days that that older rubber does work better than the stuff that we're generally getting when it comes to untreated and treated. So
right. So for those of you who don't have a durometer, who this is mainly for here, first of all, check with your track owner. He can probably get you one. If not, you can go to a place like JAGS or Summit Racing or some sort of like a speed shop or speed warehouse that sells race car things. Any place that sells like a go-kart parts store would have one.
a real stock car.
Yeah, plenty of places online. They use them in real cars, go-kart racing, RC cars, everything. They're normally probably new. They're probably going to cost you around $50 new, $50, $75 depending on the brand you get. A lot of times you find them online or on eBay, a little bit cheaper used or even new. But if you can, try to get your track owner to order you one for sure.
Right. And what you really want is a Shore durometer.
Sure, right. Yeah, you want Shore A.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you buy these are not real durometers for foam rubber.
Okay? Right.
This is for checking something that's vulcanized, like a car tire.
Right.
But it works and it's cheap. Right. Okay, if you want to get the real thing to do foam tires, you're going to spend $300+.
Right. So a Type A or a Shore A tire durometer works. Yep. That's just fine, and that's pretty much what everybody uses. So. Yep.
So the durometers are just like fiddlesticks and other tools. They don't all read the same. So right. If the guy pitting next to you, you say, okay, what's your tires durometer? And he says 14. And you say, well, my tires are durometer and 24, and they're the same tire. Well, it's just his durometer's reading different. They're not precision instruments, let's say. So I always tell people, well, if he tells you his tire is that hard, then check it on your durometer. If someone tells you my tire's 20 and you're running a 10, but his car it hooks up better, let me check your tire on my durometer. You know what? It might be an 8 on your durometer, or it might be the 10, or it might be a 6. You got to use you can't.
Yeah, don't go by somebody else's numbers. Get your own numbers to create your own reference point.
Right.
So, Ron, you want to show them how you do yours?
Like here's a JK.
Hold it up a little bit higher. There you go.
Okay, so like there's a JK small hub wonder on this durometer. It reads basically, I think it's a 20. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's hard to do it this way, but
that's maybe 18 to 20.
Okay, 18 to 20. Here's a different durometer. See? 20 what? 6? 20?
That's 21. 22.
Yeah, see, it's just hard to...
22-ish.
So...
And you can see Ron, he kind of takes his tire, and he's holding his tire, and then he's just kind of pressing down on it.
Yeah, you kind of find top dead center of the...
See, what I like to do is I like to roll. I like to start with a tire on the edge, and I like to kind of just roll the tire across. I'll do it so you can see the reading.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah, I like to roll it across and find like that peak spot right there. I mean, you don't want to try to press in the little needle tip to spring. You're not trying to press it in per se. I mean, the tire is gonna press it on its own.
Yeah, yeah. You just gotta roll it real. Yeah, you roll it real.
You don't want to jam it in there, you know.
No, exactly. You just roll it on there real gentle. So, yeah, like I said, I usually do it this way. You know, that's how I've done it for years.
So, so if I'm on a track and I've determined that we'll take that small plastic hub tire you got there, and which we'll say that driving like a 20 as a nice even.
See, and there's like a untreated tire.
Right, nice and soft 10.
Yeah, 10. So then, here's kind of an older treated tire. See, it's right in the middle.
Yeah, see, like I have treated tires that Durometer are harder than Wonder Rubber.
Yeah.
Like 24, like this one I just had a Durometer like a 26.
Right.
So, and even though it reads higher than Ron's Wonder Rubber that read 20, my tire is still going to get more bite just because it's not Wonder Rubber.
Yes, yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So we'll take your tire, which was a Wonder Rubber small hub tire that read 20, right?
Yep.
So if you go run that on the track and you feel that like maybe that tire is too soft, so at that point you have two options. You could go buy some medium hubs, plastic hubs that are same rubber, just a next size hub, which will create a little bit harder tire. Or you could maybe go to a small metal hub, which might allow you to get a little bit of a harder reading also. So there's different ways to find what you're looking for in your durometer. You don't always have to go to harder rubber. A lot of times you can keep the same rubber and just adjust your hub size and hub material.
Right. Yep. If you have those options.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like you said earlier about you kind of know what works when you walk in the door, or you know what I'm saying? Like, in certain classes, like certain tires work in certain classes and they don't work in other classes. But with that said, like if I'm going to like Florida this weekend, for example, I probably would have went in there with JK Wonder or Alpha Wonder rubber, that Durometer 20, and that's what I would have tried first. Okay, so if that was too hard, then I would have went to probably treated because I really don't have any Wonder. Well, I could have tried like a soft Alpha Wonder or a super soft Coford Wonder, but I would probably just went to treated. So I probably would have probably went from like a 20 down to a 15 and said, okay, now I'm hooked up on 15. And I, would keep running that. But at some point I'm going to say, all right, I need to find a pair that's 17 and put them on the car.
Right. And
say, oh, I'm just as hooked up, but I'm a little faster down the straightaway because the tire's a little firmer through the bank.
Yeah.
But there's times I could put that 17 on and lose everything in the back half of the track because I don't have any forward bite.
Right.
So, that's what it comes down to is once you find a reference point, then you can start playing a couple points up, a couple points down.
Another thing you can do is if you buy 2 or 3 pairs of the same tires at once and you have a durometer,
yep.
You can durometer all of them and match them up into, quote unquote matched pairs,
Right.
Because sometimes you pull 2 tires out of the tube and one will be like 2 or 4 or 6 points harder than the other one, so
yep.
It's nice if you're able to get a couple pairs if you can match them up,
Right. And then that's another thing too, like what do you do with a tire that's a little harder? Say you buy a pair of tires and one's a 20, one's a 22. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, most guys will put the harder tire on the outside going through the big bank.
Right.
On the track. So, like this weekend in Florida, you'd have put the hardest tire on the left rear.
Right.
But if he's running a king track, you'd put the hardest tire on the right rear.
Right.
in a case like that. And there are guys out there that, I mean, I've seen guys run treated on the inside and a Wonder on the outside. That really never worked for me, but some guys have success with that, so I'm not going to argue that. But I always try and run the same type tire on both sides of the car.
Yeah, my theory is kind of like adding weight or whatnot. If you can't find two tires that are the same that work, like, you're just not on the right tire yet.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, if your car's chattering, like you said, Bobby's car was really chattering bad. Usually chatter's a sign of no forward bite. You're rattling the car is what I call it. Right. So if you rattle in the car off a corner, you need a softer tire, not a harder tire.
Yes. Typically, if your tire is too soft, when you come out of the corner, it's just going to literally do a wheel stand and kind of just pull right out of the slot.
Or it'll just want to tip out.
Right. Or it could chatter, but you just won't see it get sideways and chatter.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And see, that's the thing, too, in the different hub sizes. Like a smaller hub is going to have more compression or more elasticity. So your rubber is going to be more spongy on a small hub compared to a bigger hub. Because most of the tire manufacturers, they don't buy their donuts with the center hole based on a certain rim. They buy basically a hole or inside diameter that's going to work on what's a small hub, about 375 diameter. Yeah,
somewhere around there.
So they're gonna get a donut with, say, a 3/8 hole, 375. And they're going to use their 400 hubs on it. And they're going to use their 500 hubs on it. So as you put that little bit bigger hub, it kind of stretches the rubber a little bit more, and it's not as
harder,
or as elastic. So it has a different effect. I mean, if you really want to get scientific, and you want to start a tire company, you wanted everything to be consistent, sponge wise, you'd have donuts cut as like, okay, these hubs are 400, so my D is going to be 380. These hubs are 500. I'm going to have the donuts cut at 480. So there's 20,000 stretch over each different diameter you have to keep that consistent from one to the other.
Right.
So because you got to put your rim in a donut that's the hole smaller than your rim to keep the rubber on the rim.
Right.
No matter what glue you use.
Yeah. You don't want to use glue to fill the gap.
Right. Yeah, you can't fill the gaps. So and that was always
and that's a question I get a lot all the time on my donuts, because my donuts, I have like a 385 hole, and people always message me and say, how big a hub can I put on there? Well, the answer is whatever you can make it fit on is what you can do.
Right. Well, and back in the days of HTK, we offered, I think it was a 400 hub, a 500 hub, and a 625 hub. Well, guess what? Our donuts had a 375 hole in them, and we stretched that over every one of those.
Right.
Because it was okay, I need 500 of this diameter, this 500 of this diameter. It's an ordering nightmare. So, I mean, that's the reason why you can't find alpha small full hub on medium Wonder rubber, because the donuts he's getting in, that hole is larger than that
the hub
375 hub.
Right.
So until he gets another batch of Wonder that's got a different ID in it, hint, hint. Small metal hubs on that medium alpha would be the ticket in a lot of classes right now. But so, yeah.
Okay.
That's some stuff on tires and durometers.
Okay.
Because, people have been asking about it, so I figured this might be a good time to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I know we brought it up before, but I know people always want to hear more about it, and there's just always, I mean, you could talk about it for hours.
Well,
Literally.
another thing I see a lot of people make a mistake of, and it goes back to that whole compression thing and everything else, is when they true their tires. If your rubber is smoking when you're truing your tires, you're either feeding the rubber too fast or you're going too slow. You need to speed up your.
And even if it's not smoking, when you're done with the tire, if it's cupped or smaller in the middle, those on the edges,
Yep.
Same thing. You're feeding it too fast and you're getting it too hot.
You want it when you're grinding tires or truing tires, you want to make dust, not gum. If you're making gum or little rubber balls, you're either going too fast or you're feeding the tire too fast or you're going too slow.
Or you're spinning it. Could be spinning it at too many volts.
Yep. You want to make
too fast.
You want to make dust, not gum.
Make a mess.
Yep. I mean, you sit there and you radius the outside edge of your tires. Yeah, you're going to get a little smoke. That's okay on the outside radius, but as far as across the surface, I don't know. I mean, again.
And when you radius your edges, they should be smoothly done. They shouldn't be ripped either.
Right. Yeah. Because they're ripped. If they're ripped, you're basically gripping them and pulling. You're ripping the rubber off. You're not grinding the rubber off. I see that a lot too. It's like, did you chew on this to do it? It's like,
right.
I don't know if I probably can't even see that, but that's what you want it to look like, nice and smooth.
Right.
Again. So yeah, ripped edges don't work it. You want to tell them about the time that I sat there and narrowed tires up for you, Ralph?
Which time?
In Chicago.
Cutting them, you mean?
I was narrowing them. I put them on the thing and the Dremel, and I got the X-Acto, and I cut the first one, and I put the second tire on. You said, "Well, how are you going to do that the same?" I said, "Watch me." And you said I had to measure it, and I went and I had you measure them. They were perfect.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, that's just experience."
Yeah, and it is. I mean, once you do something so many times, it's like a barometer. You just kind of know.
Well, when you said I had to measure it before I did it, that was like the challenge was on. No,
right, yeah.
I'm going to show you how to do it, but yeah, I mean, from years of narrowing tires, and see that's another thing you can sometimes do to tune your tires is you can narrow them a little bit, and.
But again, I'll say if I have to narrow my tires, I just don't feel like I'm on the right tire.
Well, and that's and I agree with you, but there's just some days you can't find the right tire, so you have to do that.
Right, do it. I mean, if it's like in a pinch in the race or
something. Yeah, and it depends on how you're racing too. I mean, sometimes you can't change your tires.
Right.
So you find your stuff a little on the stuck side, and your car's too tight, wants to tip out or.
But just remember, once you take it off, you can't put it back on. So.
Exactly right. So sometimes you have to roll the dice, and I'll get my scissors out and just cut. I call it snipping them on the inside side of the tire, the set screw side. Make 4 snips, and I guess knock on wood. Fortunately, I haven't ever screwed myself by making my tires too thin or too narrow.
Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet.
Now that you said that, you probably will.
No. But, I mean, it's kind of like the same deal. I mean, you got to kind of, it's part of the racing strategy, as they say. You got to, some days you tech in the morning, but you don't race for 6 hours later. So you got to roll the dice on what tire you think is going to work 6 hours from then. And, sometimes the track gets a little more sticky and sometimes the track gets a little more loose. And then there's days you just have to drive yourself around whatever you're lacking.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
it goes all kinds of different ways. But yeah, narrowing tires, you can loosen your car up by narrowing your tires. So, I would prefer to run or start a race stuck than to be too loose, because if you can't change your tires, you can't fix your looseness. But if you're stuck, like I said, you can snip your tires and loosen your car up a little bit.
Or you can adjust your sensitivity or something, maybe to kind of, like you said, drive around it.
Yeah. So that's all I can think of.
That's all I got, yeah. You got any upcoming races for us?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This weekend, November 11th, the OCC is at Fast Tracks in Fremont, Ohio.
Right.
ORS is at HMS in Bellevue, Ohio.
Yeah.
The B&E Crosstown Hardbody Challenge is at Chicagoland Raceway.
Okay.
The JPM Hardbody Series is in South Bend, Indiana at Thaser Raceway. The Mid-South Racing Association is at Hobby Max in Durham, North Carolina this weekend. You've got two big drag races, and I think there's actually a third race too, but there's the $1 million drag race down in Del City, Oklahoma.
Not really for $1 million.
Not really for $1 million. And then there's the Turkey. This is the first weekend of the Turkey Nats at Tri-State Raceway in Middletown, Ohio. This is like, well, I don't know, probably
I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, 14th, 15th annual or something. And this week they're running bracket and index. Next weekend they'll run class racing.
Classes.
And then the innovative slots down in Minneapolis, they're having a series drag race down there. So, and I think that's all class racing. And then November 18th, we have the Turkey Nats at Tri-State Part 2, which I said is class racing. BRS is at Fast Tracks in Fremont, Ohio. Penn, Ohio is at Washington Slot Car Club in Washington, Pennsylvania. The Central Illinois Slot Series is at Elkhart Village, Illinois. Penn, Jersey is on Sunday, the 19th, at Trains and Lanes in Easton, Pennsylvania. The Rebel Series is at Concord. AWRA is at Thunder Road in Virginia, and they also have an event at Kingston's in Alabama. And the Northeast Retro Series, NERR, is at, I believe it's Agawam, Massachusetts.
What's going on in Alabama?
That's the AWRA at Kingston's Raceway. I told you about this the other week, or I asked you about it. Maybe off show I asked you if you've ever heard or been.
Figure out what kind of track they had?
No, you have to look it up because.
Where'd you? Just on Facebook?
Yeah, go to AWRA and their events. And while he's doing that, we're going to go to November 25th. We got the Turkey Classic Drag Race at Hot Slots in Lewisburg, Tennessee. The Retro Texas Two-Step at Dallas Slot Cars in Garland, Texas. The AWRA is at VT Raceway in California. And there is Isra Euro Racing at Speed Zone, New Jersey, in Mount Holly, New Jersey. They're running.
Okay, yeah, this is probably like a 15-foot track.
Okay, well,
4-lane. It's like a triangular shaped. Looks like it's in a spare bedroom or.
Well, go. Ralph, go get your womp on. I mean, come on, it's not that far from you, is it? We need an on-the-site race report. So that's your assignment.
I don't know where. I actually don't even know where Anderson, Alabama is.
Oh. Anderson, Alabama. Wow.
Yeah.
Anderson, Indiana, Anderson, Alabama.
That sounds like you should go.
I could be in Anderson all the time.
All right. Well, what's our secret word of the show today?
Oh, wow. Let's, I hadn't even thought about that.
Okay.
Let's just go Duro, D-U-R-O, because we talked about durometers.
There you go. All right.
Duro.
All right, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to episode 14. We'll see you again for 15.
15 next week.
All right. Good luck, everybody. Be safe.
Have fun.